I remember reading an interview
Yeah.
of your dad long time ago, and he said something to the effect of how, you're very street smart. You're very different from him. I wonder what he meant by that.
That was his perspective or understanding of me, right? He's a pure actor. So when I make a slightly more mainstream choice, he will feel that, oh, he thinks differently from how I think, right? So it's natural for him to feel like that. Yeah.
Because you're also very different personality types. Would that be correct to say? As people, are you very different?
My aspirations were my aspirations. He was born to a professor in Ludhiana, and his aspiration to be a film actor, I think, was far more kind of blasphemous, so to say, than for an actor's son to want to be a hero. I think that's a smaller kind of transition than what he. So he was actually the one in the family who broke out towards the arts, so to say. And he took that step of stepping away from a father who was a professor and then a principal, to choosing something, and that many years back, which was not necessarily at that time considered even a profession, so to say, right? It was unreasonable to think like that.
Right.
So he was the one who made it, and then my mom was a classical dancer, and then they gave me their DNA. So I mean, can I blame myself?
No, you shouldn't. No, you shouldn't. You've had a fabulous life, but also you've had amazing struggles as well. I mean, you've spoken about how, this whole barista in Lokhandwala, and there is a whole bunch of people who come from various parts of India trying to make it. I want to understand, because you did it your way in the sense of being one of them. You never made those calls, right? You were the same person listening to other people's stories, hoping that you'll land. You've apparently done 200.
Also, my dad was a very private person, so he didn't really have a huge social group of friends, and he would never ever. He thought it would probably not be self-respecting of him to pick up the phone and say, "Mere bete ko le lo," ya "Mere bete se mil lo." At that time, it was considered, at least with certain set of people who felt a certain way, that that's not right. I should not put pressure on somebody to meet you because you are my son, so to say, right? So I kind of, I had grown up in that kind of atmosphere where they had made it on their own merit. So I was very proud of the fact that my parents didn't come from a lineage of people doing the same thing, ki lawyer ka beta lawyer ban jayega, doctor ka beta doctor ban jayega, actor ka beta actor. It was not like that. Both, even my maternal side, my grandparents were journalists.
Right.
My grandfather and my grandmother used to write for Sputnik, which is a very, very famous
Russian
magazine back
magazine,
there. And they had a
What language did they write in?
Russian.
Wow.
They would translate Russian to English, Russian to Urdu.
So your grandfather was like a proficient in Russian language?
Yes, he was. In fact, they've lived in Russia for a few years.
Do you know Russian?
I know Popuchka. You know what Popuchka means? It basically means what you're sitting on.
What do you mean?
Your ass.
I'm not, well.
And actually, Sasha is Russian for something. Sasha is a very common Russian name. So the word Sasha also came from...
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, so I want you to take us through that world of 2003 and a few years before that, when you are, I don't know why they use the word struggler only for actors. Nobody calls somebody a struggling doctor or a
but
struggling engineer.
It resonates with your feeling.
Yeah?
You really feel like you're struggling when you're wanting to.
It's a lot of rejection, right?
It's a lot of rejection, yeah. It's really hard, yeah.
So you're going every morning testing for parts, or how did that portion of your life happen? What was it like?
First you try to understand what is the criteria to become an actor. And and when you're like 14, 15, the criteria is body hona chahiye, good looking hona chahiye, ladkiyon ko cute lagna chahiye. So you start with something as absurd but kind of true like that, right? That's like
there's a slot,
brass tacks. ये तो चाहिए, बाकी का बाद में
chocolate boy
acting आता है सिखा देंगे, घोड़ा चलाना सिखा देंगे, body बना लो, cute लग लो, ये वो. That was the basic criteria. So it was really sad. And I'm sure a lot of people still think that that's the criteria for being a mainstream Hindi film hero. I really don't think it is.
Not anymore.
I really don't think it ever was. I don't think Amitabh Bachchan was the best looking man of his times. He was the finest actor of his time. Neither was Dilip Saab the best looking actor of his time, but he was the finest artist of his time. You fall in, beautiful is a very, it's all about how people perceive you.
Right.
So for me, people who come alive on camera are beautiful because I can just keep watching them. And that's essentially what you want. Brass tacks is that who is watchable, who can you watch and who can consume you and who can you get kind of transported by, and that is the craft. Everything else supports you. Of course, I mean, if you look good or you dress well or you're charming, that's added value. But that's not going to hold you for the long term. You need to find something that sustains you over a period of time, and that something better be something deep and solid and grounded.
But not at that time, right? When you were starting out, that's not what they were looking for.
I didn't know what was happening only at
So
that
what were
time.
these 2,200 auditions you went to, Shahid? According to some
Lots of
interview?
them, yeah.
200, huh?
Lots.
Or you just
Must
said
have done
200?
more than that also. I don't even
More than
remember.
200?
Yeah, see, I started struggling when I was 18, if they, like the word we're
If that's
using,
the
or
word,
like I
yeah.
started chasing,
Yeah,
wanting to be an
yeah.
actor at the age of 18, and I debuted at 22. 4 साल में 200 ऑडिशन तो हो जाएगा ना ब्रो. 1200 दिन है.
Is there anything that you auditioned for and it's like, wow, wish I could be part of this, but you didn't get it, and that became quite
No, none of it
iconic
did
thereafter? All rubbish.
None of it worked.
Wow.
So I got damn lucky. I think
Yeah.
the guys who didn't take me did me a favor. Really, yeah.
I think you said no to one film, right? That Style, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
I was supposed to do it, and then I chose to not do it because I didn't want to do a film with 2 heroes.
You were that clear, huh?
Yeah, bro.
No wonder your
I'd
dad
do a
doesn't
film with
get
2
you.
heroes today. At that time, I was like, nahin. You know.
But you've done movies with 2 heroes. I mean,
Of course,
Yeah.
I have. They have their pros and cons.
But if we look at your career in the sense of the kind of stuff you did, and I'm sure it was obviously sort of related to the kind of stuff that was being made. So you have to be part of those because that's what's being offered
There was
to
no
you.
work for my age bracket. I looked too young. So I debuted in a college film.
Yes.
मेरी दाढ़ी भी नहीं आई थी, ठीक है, और मैं बहुत गोरा चिट्टा.
So you were not shaving at the time?
I was trying.
Just
but
about.
कुछ आता नहीं था.
Right.
So it's like, you know, ऐसा थोड़ा अभी खेती चल रही है, खाद डाल रहे हैं, किसी दिन
काफी ज्यादा ही खाद डाल दिया
फसल
इसके बाद
उगेगी.
तो.
अरे क्या अभी तो मतलब I can't complain bro, पूरा आता है अभी. So whatever the hell I did, it worked. Yes. You know, they used to tell you सीधा shaver use करो, उल्टा shaver use करो, ऐसे करो, वैसे करो. All that I used to try. You know.
But there was a weird time also, right? It was like this, there was a shift happening in
But
in
that
Hindi
time all
films.
this chikna look, like how you have this habit of shaving, that was the norm at that time.
Yeah.
Now it's considered little.
Yeah. Now everybody
like,
has a beard.
It's not the popular kind
Yeah.
of.
I think they're all trying to hide their double chin. That's why everyone has a beard.
तू दिखा रहा है.
मतलब
तो है ही
whatever. मैं कौन सा एक्टर हूँ मुझे क्या फर्क पड़ता है
मेरी तो है ही नहीं.
Coming back to your career. But those were crazy times, right? I'm sure you had like crazy experiences in terms of going to producers' offices and stuff that was being offered to you, or the advice that you were getting that you probably didn't agree with. But that's
Yeah,
what
a
the
lot of
struggle
times
is.
they were like तेरी picture तो चल गई है, but तुझे किस heroine के साथ cast करें? And then they would name 3-4 big stars and say ये सब तो तुझसे, you know, तू बच्चा लगेगा इनके सामने. तेरे अंदर मर्दानगी नहीं आई है अभी. तेरे साथ, you know, करेंगे हम तो तू कैसे, you know, how will you look like you are, you know, कुछ मास चाहिए ना, मासी हीरो चाहिए. तो था नहीं मेरे अंदर, मास का एम भी नहीं था. So you know, yeah, all that did happen at that time. So yeah, I did have to choose from whatever people were ready to offer me, even though I was a successful actor, because the kind of content that had been written at that time was made for the older actors. You know, so I think Hrithik came in 3 years before me.
Yes, 2000 I think.
But
That was,
he had a very like, you
that
know,
was the last big debut, and then I guess yours was
no,
the
then
one
Vivek
after.
happened.
Vivek also, yeah.
So you know, so
2002 would be company.
So I remember the year that I debuted, they told me तेरा तो कुछ नहीं होने वाला है, क्योंकि इंडस्ट्री सिर्फ 5 साल में एक हीरो को एक्सेप्ट करती है, और अभी तो इंडस्ट्री ने 3 साल में 2 को एक्सेप्ट कर लिया है, तो तेरा तो चांस ही नहीं
Law
है.
of averages में
मतलब
done.
तेरा तो चांस ही नहीं है, तेरा तो होने ही नहीं वाला कुछ. So I used to listen to all that and then go to producers and they used to say that, you know, we can't cast anybody opposite you and all. So a good 5-6 years was all that. So you chose from whatever, not chose, but kind of just jumped at whatever came your way. Till things changed. Like I tell Ishan, you know, I tell him, I'm like, man, you have no idea, like this is so much easier a time because there's so much young talent, there is so much diversity of the kind of films that get made. Everything's not boxed into yehi chalta hai anymore.
Right.
I think everything has been kind of broken down enough for people to know that there is no formula to success.
Subscribe to Midday India. Get direct notifications on all our videos by clicking on the bell icon.